Kind of relaxing with either.
Well, it kind of sucks because I don't know what I did, but I hooked up my Amazon account to this, and so now Charles just makes fun of what I bought.
See what you could watch.
Yeah, so like, cause it's hooked up to my Disney Plus, it's hooked up to everything, so like,
That's
anytime the kids watch anything, or I watch anything, he's like, you're really watching that. Like, why are you watching that? I'm like, I don't know, I like it.
Yeah. Better than the other stuff.
Exactly.
Cool. Is it cold outside or what?
It's warming up. It's, you know, it's a little chilly, not like yesterday. Yesterday there was a lot of wind.
It was a lot of, we went
Yeah.
barbecued last night. Go for our, just like order our house. Just barbecue. Yeah, just, of course, always wearing socks and stuff. And it was grilling onions and they kept me, long stories. I was out there longer than I should have been, and it was windy. It was blowing me off foil off the burgers, the covering. Oh my God. My wife's like, what's going on? And it's nothing, windy and it's cold. We should just put it in the broiler.
Hope it was worth it.
It was very much.
2-1.
Exactly, well, probably 3 when we got two more burgers left after today's lunch. We'll take a day break and then we'll do it.
They're going to want something that for you in Arvada as well?
Where I live,
Yeah,
I live in Boulder area,
okay.
North Boulder.
I'm in Westminster, so.
Oh, cool. So my house is in Broomfield,
Nice.
Midway, and Highway 287.
Yep.
The highway. We're at 92nd in Sheridan, in Westminster for years.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it was just big buildings.
Yeah.
I kept moving around the first floor, taking down walls, putting them back up, shrinking, growing.
Yeah.
It was a great spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a convenient.
Yeah, on and off the highway. Well, there was a Whole Foods there at one time, which was nice.
Yeah, I was surprised at that when I moved here. I moved to Westminster a year ago.
Oh, okay.
And I was surprised at the, you know, population, 110,000 people, so there's no Whole Foods up there.
Well, there's one on 120th
Oh, we gotta keep going.
and Federal.
Okay,
No, between Sheridan and Federal. So just east of Sheridan, actually, a huge shopping center,
okay.
big boxes, they're in there. They have an opening there instead. So they shut down just having much, where there was more of the population of people living. Whereas the location of the house is more commercial.
Yeah.
So it's great for me, I watch across the street.
It's right there.
Yeah, it was literally right there.
Okay. Oh, that's what it is now. Oh, okay, I know where that is.
Yeah.
It's just a big liquor
So
store.
liquor stores area, I was right there. It's just-
Yeah. Oh, that would have been nice.
It was nice, but it was always dead.
Yeah.
This sense, no.
Yeah. Well, geez, there's a Costco over there and then that place.
It's.
I was in there on Sunday and I was like, what is going on? Cause I
Yeah.
usually don't go on the weekends.
Right.
But
It's a running toilet paper.
yeah, it wasn't like me. It was a few months ago when there was that doctor story. I was like, what's going on?
I know, yeah, I'm glad.
But
He's pretty in and out of there though.
yeah,
Even when they're.
they're really good. They're really good. But you know, it's just getting in the aisles and.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is insane. One lady in front of me said, it's the last day of the, you know, they send out those flyers And things are on sale from here to here.
Oh, right, yeah.
So so I was like, oh, note to self, not to go, because it was busier than normal.
Hey Taylor, can you hear us? So you wanna talk?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, well, no, we can do a couple, 2, 3 slides each and
Great.
rotate. Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
You need to start.
I'll start it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It's a good place. Space,
Yeah. Thanks.
Hey Nikki.
Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
Well, good to see your picture. Person see, but I didn't expand that on the see if she's already got it.
Okay.
Used.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Also
It's
really
almost like
lousy.
drive over there and grab a cocktail and have them fill the form out while I wait there.
Right.
Jeff? Yeah, what's going on? Yes, I do. We'll go, one more minute and get started. Hi, Adriana. Hey, Elena.
Hi, I'm headed in. I'm just running a little behind.
Oh, that's fine. See you when you get here. Get that transaction get put together, that works.
Yeah, actually, now that the actual person who knows what's going on isn't involved, it's going pretty well.
Okay, person being on the loan side?
Yeah,
Okay, because I would think there was some disruption.
yeah, there's a person who is, the assistant head, no clue. That was the problem.
Got it. Okay, at least that's come around.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, there's some other problems.
Well, go to real estate.
It's always problems.
None of these do blending, and so we have some other.
Yeah. But sometimes lending is the simplest part, even though there's problems in lending, those are solvable in most cases.
These are solvable problems, so.
Yeah, good. Hopefully not too much.
And it's a lot of dancing.
Yeah, I get it. All right, so we're gonna get started. Dale and I are here today, for those of you who are not here, to go over what actually was brought to our attention, because we always like to ask what does Elizabeth or Charles thinks a good class or topic to talk about. When we make time to do this, and you guys spend your time doing, we want to make sure it's valuable to you and that we feel it's relevant to the marketplace. And what we're gonna talk about today is relevant always, because we're gonna talk about what conversations are had with a prospective buyer when we speak to them. You're not sitting in on our calls. I would actually invite you to, when you have time, sit on a phone call with one of us when we're pre-approving one of your clients to kind of hear and see what kind of questions we ask and what responses we get. And how we respond to those responses to really dig deep to get to the area where we really need to get to, and that is to make sure we're getting the proper information that we need to issue a good, clean pre-approval if we can get there. So I always think it's important to do things like that in our industry. I will sit with our underwriters, our funders, our closers, just so we have a good idea what they're doing, our processors, because we say, can you please do these things? We don't always know what it takes to get those things done. Because we're like, why is it taking 3 hours? I could have done it in one phone call. Well, actually, you can't in some cases. So we thought this was a really good topic, and I'm thankful to Charles and Elizabeth for bringing that up to us as well. So we want to talk about a couple different things around that. One is, how do we help promote you and how do you help promote us as well during this topic? Because that's also important in supporting each other when you say, hey Mitch, can you call Rachel and Steve? And we call them and we say, oh, I know you've been working with Arden, that's who recommended we give you a call. You're in great hands with her, she does great work, she helps represent you in any way she can. And I'm certain that you guys are saying you should talk to Mitch or Dale, because you're gonna be in great hands with what they provide as a value add to my team, and that's why I'm referring them. So we want to make sure we're helping and supporting each other from a integrity standpoint and a very honest standpoint of, we're a team, and we're here to help the client ultimately, but we know that we're both helping each other to help them. And I think that cohesiveness and that kind of conversation is really important. So we do that also, just so you know, when you refer somebody to us. So trying to create more opportunities, obviously the market is what it is, opportunities are fewer to come by than they have been in the past. We're going to talk about the perspective from the buyer's side of things, and when they talk to a lender, what does that mean to them? Because what we've learned is, talk to a lender, and the first thing that happens is they get like this anxiety. Like, what are we gonna talk about? And what questions are they gonna ask? Oh my goodness, all the things I've had to kind of store away in my financial skeletal box, now it's gonna have to come out, we're gonna have to discuss things that are uncomfortable in many cases. Our goal is to make that not so uncomfortable, but we do have to get to the information so that we can provide good feedback. And then how do we support your clients? And so talk about the referring of a client first. So everybody has a little different way of putting that together. And where you're comfortable with first. And then like the rest of us, we're all very conforming to our clients' needs and what we feel is best for them. And how we determine that is we talk to them and say, how would you like us to communicate to you? Would you prefer a text or an email or a phone call, whatever that is? So we feel like in you speaking to your client and saying to them, I'm gonna have Mitch or Dale give you a call. I'm gonna have Mitch or Dale contact you. What's your preference of how I make the introduction? Would you prefer us to send an email intro? Would you do a text introduction, or would you like me just to give them your name and phone number and have a call? Right? Those are the three most common ways of doing it. Why we think that's important is because when we connect with them, we won't want to connect with them through a phone call. And like I told Arden to tell you to text me, and we call it, right? That doesn't start off the good communication between you, Arden, and I, and then of course to the client. So finding that information, and as little as that seems, and not like a big deal, it's a pretty big deal because I guess Arden did tell me she was going to have you text me. I got your text. Let's figure out a time to get together and talk with the information. So that piece is really important. I would say the majority of the time, Dale, you can chime in, is, I think the majority of the time is really email introductions, but oftentimes too, it could be texting. Just because texting is it's not a large, there's too much communication going on in that initial intro text, in my opinion. What do you find mostly?
Yeah, often email.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, so whatever your client thinks is important, that's probably the best way to set it up. And then what we do is we will connect with that client however they want us to, the time they want us to. And what I do, and I don't want to speak for Dale, is I have 9 questions that I send out in an introduction email once I get the email from you guys to talk to them. So we'll say, thanks for the introduction, let's get together, what times work best for you, what day, what time of the day, is the weekend better? And when they give me that time, I'll respond with, here's a list of questions that we're going to discuss together so that when I contact you, you'll have all that data available. Because 2 parts are really good in doing that, I've learned over the years. One is, they don't really know what we're going to talk about. And as much as you might say, well, you're going to review what you do for work and your income and find out a little bit maybe more about what kind of money you have available to buy a house, etc. These questions are very specific to what we're going to talk about. So there are things like your employment and how long you've been employed. What kind of income do you earn? Is it salary? Do you get overtime? Do you get bonus? Do you have a second job? Are you a veteran? Are you a first-time home buyer? Are you interested in down payment assistance programs? So there's these very basic but core questions that we ask, so that when I connect with them or Dale connects with them, they're prepared to have the dialogue and the conversation, as opposed to, hold on, I gotta go look at my tax returns. Hold on, I gotta look at a bank statement. And all of a sudden, very succinct, kind of well-designed conversation becomes very disjointed and a little bit of anxiety, like, I had no idea I was gonna need to have this information available. So that really takes away that piece of it, so it's, well, good use of our time, and they have that information available, they don't feel anxious about what we have about. And then when they, in my email, I say, you can answer these questions and email back before we connect, that way I'll have loan program options available right away in our call. Or we can just discuss them when we talk, whatever's comfortable for them. They don't know me yet. And they're saying to me, well, here's my income, here's my credit, here's my debts, and here's how much money I have. They may be uncomfortable with that, so I want them to feel like they have the flexibility to know we can do it either way. I would say 80% of people respond with the answers. And we go through, I double check it with them, they call them, and we go through what their programs that they can qualify for. So that seems to help quite a bit. And we'll probably do something very similar. So that we handle it that way.
Yeah, I had added to that using closed-ended questions, which maybe you didn't read my mind there. But I think when you do that connection, oftentimes it's like, hey, can I introduce my lender? And they're like, I don't know about that. They wanna go do online shopping, and then they come back with like, hey, I have a pre-approval from Rocket Mortgage. And if you've ever had that situation, it's not ideal. So I think instead, using a closed-ended question of, hey, I'd like to introduce you to my lender, would you prefer email or text? It doesn't really give them an out, it's that closed-ended question, so that they have to meet with us.
And the benefit there is we're at least gonna give you, we know each other, number one, and two, we're gonna give you good valid data, good valid feedback about where they qualify. We can't prevent them from doing the calls or going online, but you can have some confidence to know you're working with a qualified bank, which is really the key point to this initial conversation. Our goal is to be able to work with that client together so that we help all the way through, and that with your support and our support, they see the value of working with both of us as a team, plus the other people you'll provide, like inspectors and insurance companies and things like that. But when they don't know either of us, or they don't know me or Dale at all, typically, we have to make sure we build that trust and have that good dialogue and talk about being local, and if they want to come in and meet or go meet for a cup of coffee or whatever, we'll do that. I mean, that's part of what we do, just like you guys do. So, that part's crucial.
What do you say to this? Like, they say that they go out more, if you're qualified for Rocket Mortgage or whatever kind of thing. What's your spin on that?
Yeah, so we say it's really important to do your homework and get information, that there's an abundance of it out there, but one of the reasons why I've been asked to communicate with you is because, one, we're a local lender and we understand the current local market and the conditions of the real estate market and how that impacts your ability to get your offer accepted. Two, we've been doing this for many years, and we are in touch and deal with home loans on a minute by minute basis all day long. And we can keep you up to date with the current changes and knowing that when you go to look for a home, you're gonna be able to qualify to buy that home, should you find one that works for you, but closing without any other issues that we're not aware of at this point in time. And three, we invite you to shop around and look, but having an expert that's here locally you can be with and look with eye to eye, in lieu of just doing something on the phone or over the internet, is probably more valuable when you're spending $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, as opposed to you're just trying to get a credit card or you're trying to buy a shoehorn on Amazon or whatever it is. So we try to build the value and the trust and the locality of being here. Seems to be very important to people once they understand, like, I didn't think about that, and so used to being aligned with everything.
Yeah.
I think human interaction when I'm buying a $500,000 house or more is very important. And then you make a decision from there. We also talked about being that we've been in Colorado doing loans for so long. We know so many different agents in the community that if they make an offer with an agent that we know already on the listening side, and they have a comparable offer that is being submitted, sometimes just knowing us will make them take the offer from the buyer versus not knowing who the lender is, or if it was a Rocket lender, for example, they definitely want to work, you guys keep listening. You definitely rather work with a local lender than Rocket Mortgage or even a big box bank. You can not avoid it, but your preference would be that. So we share all that information with them. But we don't want to say, you should never talk to somebody like that, but you do anyway. And I won't say that anyway, it's not building trust and confidence and all that. You know, we're all in a very tough business and competition is healthy right now. It is really hard, all the compensation questions about, well, we do it now for 2.2 instead of 2.8, or we do it for 2.5, it's like realizing. Think that, so you're getting it now, and it's new, we've been getting it for 25 years. It's, well, I could just call someone down the street and they'll offer me lower, I'll get online and find other lowers, what would you do, and why can't you do this, why won't you do that? It is really hard, and that's happening more now than ever before. I'm sure you could vouch for that. Where we're having a lot of people get qualified with this, we pre-approve them, they go under contract, we're ready, we're moving forward with that updated information, and like, well, you're just going online now, I'm under contract, I'm talking to 6 different lenders, and got 3 are in Kentucky, 2 are in Idaho, 1's in Florida. So here's all the quotes, what can you do for me? I mean, it's nuts. That's why this and what we're talking about today is really important. To help keep that cohesive, keeping this cohesive partnership together. And it's valid, we're not trying to say do something that isn't right for the client. That's gonna be important to ultimately get them to closing, which is really the most important thing, with good competitive everything, right? Yes, you're advising them on everything, your compensation, our interest rates, inspectors, appraisers, things like that. So that's how we address all that, but it's complex, and more so these days than ever before. You know, anyway, what's your question?
So they are shopping around with multiple lenders, are they doing like a big credit pool with each
It
lender?
Does that
depends. Hurt your credit?
It could, it depends. So if they have good credit, a couple credit runs won't affect having good credit. If you have credit on the borderline of 640 and all of a sudden you get to 619 on a credit score, you've now taken yourself out of getting any loan, right? Reasonable loan. So it really depends on that. Our ideal situation is, and this is all about our trust and the looking out for our client's best interest, is we say, we can run a soft credit report for you and just get 2 credit scores, they're valid, without it having an inquiry on their credit report to help protect that piece for them. Now, at the same time, we're putting ourselves, and I hate to say it, in a more vulnerable situation. You could go, well, I can go talk to 6 more vendors now because I can all do soft pulls and I'll just keep going until I get the one I want. That makes sense. So we have this fine mind of going, we want to help you, we also want some commitment back from you, but the time and energy we're going to put it to help you. Like if we can do all these things you've asked us to do, we've already done all this for you. Like you, we get paid for nothing until we close. And then we get taxed and you don't. We're W2 employees for our company. We then want to make sure that we're doing the best thing for that. So.
I would say too, Jeff, regarding your question, which was, I think, why would you go to us versus Rocket?
Yeah, no, I know, I mean, I had.
Well, explaining to your client.
Yeah.
I think that there's no, and I can't speak for Rocket because I've never worked for them, but I think there's less creativity, whereas they might just apply and here's your pre-approval, here's a loan. Versus like, hey, and you can negotiate with the seller and you can do a temporary buy down. Maybe you can afford more house than you think if we pay this off or move your money around in different ways. And so I think they can just have a better perspective and probably have, more attainable goal in their home purchasing when they speak with someone who has it yourself.
Yeah, it's a good answer. They don't typically have 20, 15 years loan officer, 30+ years loan officers working at Rocket Mortgage typically, because they don't pay enough money for our knowledge and our value. So it is a different experience that the client's going to have, for sure. But sometimes like, I just went online and needed a pretty quick letter, I got it from Rocket, I went to their website, I wanted to go see a house, listing agent said I need to have a letter reported, show me the house, so I did, right, sometimes they end up doing it that way.
Yeah.
And then they kind of recoil back and come back and go, all right, let's talk about really, what's the benefit to you? You got what you needed to get, to go see the house. But let's figure out what's the best way to structure that financing for you. And the goal hopefully is, you don't have somebody who wants to come see a property that's never talked to a lender yet. Because now you're in a position of looking to qualify, right, now you're starting, now you're kind of going backwards.
Yeah.
It happens way more than you think, but like, we'll get a call and go, I know I wasn't gonna go look for a house, but this one came up on the search that was sent to me. And I wanna go see it, and I love it, and I'd really like to, if I like it, I wanna make an offer, can I do that, can I do it now? And the good news is we can do it now, and as long as they take 20 minutes to fill out an application if they haven't yet. We do our analysis, we've got a wonderful mobile app, I can do everything on my mobile app, I can run credit, I can get them the rate, I can issue an approval letter, and I can send it to you, all from our mobile app. While I'm having breakfast with my wife, he says, okay, you do another one of those at breakfast, we're done. She realizes it's paying for our breakfast. And I can pay for my breakfast. So,
Very, very painful and costly, by the way.
Yes.
so most people say, okay, I get your app, I'll be in a half hour. But the goal is for that to happen very minimally if you can avoid that, because your time is valuable. The last thing you want to do is go get dressed, get ready to go, and then like, okay, we showed you in the home, how's everything look, Mitch? They don't qualify. We got 615 credit score, they don't have any money, they're just highly motivated, they saw something that they really liked, and they've been looking. So, and you can choose how you want to run your own business, to say, I'd love to show you this house, can we do it at 3 o'clock after you talk to Mitch or Dale or a lender, so that we know when we show it to you, that you actually have a good chance of putting an offer, and should you really like this house? And are you familiar, are you aware of, of course, I know you guys all have your kind of interview questions. Well, whatever those are, right, so I think we can kind of structure that way, so. We have a partner phone app, so we have CMG as a mobile app that we co-brand you on there, of which then you could send to your client, of which then your client can do a lot of things on that mobile app. And every time they open that mobile app, they will see you, all your contact information on there. They can click to do any property searches that you set up for them. They can go to your Facebook, they can go to your Instagram, they can see all the mortgage side of things that are happening. If they actually go under contract and we do a loan for them, you can see all your loan updates for their loan on the mobile app when they're registered under you and us. So we talked about mobile apps a lot for a really long time, and then nobody used them. And the people who still use them now here get better traction with this kind of conversation we're having. They say, let me send you our mobile app, of which then you can complete it from there. And then they do, and I get the information, and I contact them. That seems to help tie them in better with you guys initially as their realtor representation, and then us as the lender, because now they're looking at that information all the time. So if that's something you have interest in, let Dale or I know, we can get you set up on that. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, you just download the app, and we already have most everybody here's contact information. We upload it, you take a look at it, you can see if it looks great, and if it's workable for you, and then we'll send it to you, and then you can forward that on to your clients. It's got all these great calculators on it, it's got just a ton of interactive things that are really helpful.
I would say the best thing about that app is we can control your notifications how you want to be notified, but every time they open it, you can be notified. And so that client who goes dark, and then 6 months later is like, I'm gonna go on that app and run a mortgage payment. It's like, oh yeah, I gotta call that guy. Like, I haven't heard from him in a long time. He's doing something, he's thinking about buying a house. And so it's just that further follow-up that is just really nice to have.
Yeah, a little different than a hearted of search, right? That they like, oh man, they're back on it, I haven't seen them here for a while. This is another touch to say, oh, I see you've been looking. What we utilize it for, someone said, all right, I qualified them for $700,000, and all of a sudden I see them doing calculations for a $900,000 property. My first concern, well, not even concern, the thing is like, oh, did they come into this more money that they could actually buy a more expensive home? or do they change jobs where they're making more money, they can afford a more expensive home? Or what changed? It's a reason to call. Hey, I saw you were using the app. I don't want to feel like I'm a stalker. I mean, I let them know when they download it, hey, just want to let you know when you use this, we get notified just so we can be helpful in anything you're doing, make sure we can support you. So I call and say, I saw you did this. It's a little bit, I don't even say it's different numbers. I just say, I saw you did this. Is there anything I can help you with? Let's talk with you. What are you doing? Is anything come up? And some people are like, no, I knew it was on, I was trying to make a calculation for something, or yeah, I'm actually back into looking. I had somebody yesterday. Yeah, actually. So it was nice to have the app there. All right, referring your clients early in the process, we've kind of been talking about that already. The sooner you can have them get qualified / pre-approved, the sooner you can then have those meetings with them, knowing that you can confidently show them property if they're ready to look, or at least get them on a search if they're not ready to look yet, but they're wanting education about what the market looks like. This helps them kind of, we'll send these out to everybody, this slideshow for the slides, but it just gives them the more information they have, we feel, the less anxiety and stress they feel about looking to purchase a home, especially if they're a first-time home buyer, because they don't know a lot. They know what they know based on either family, friends, or going online. And unfortunately, that's good. It's a good foundation, but it's not the real details and the nitty-gritty of what we do every day, and the ins and outs and the fluidity of the real estate market on how day-to-day it changes. And it's interesting how we'll notice these things over a weekend. All of a sudden, it was a seller's market, and in one weekend, all of a sudden it became a buyer's market. And it's just this subtle transition took place. And it was in October of last year, actually, I remember. And it went from sellers saying, I'm not paying any closing costs, to all of a sudden they're willing to pay closing costs. Because all of a sudden the offers came in, yeah, we need closing costs. And why did that happen? Because rates went up. And rates went up, so people couldn't afford it, and they said, well, I can still buy it, et cetera. And that's the market we're in now, right? It's only propelled to where it is today. But people don't know that. People don't, some people think rates were still at 8% when they were at 5.99. Like, oh my God, I thought rates were still up there. So they just don't know what we know because they don't do what we do. And live it literally 7 days a week, so.
Mitch, what's that, I'm looking at the app right now, CMG Home Loans, is that the right one? I don't see any calculators or anything like that on it.
Do you have it downloaded on your phone
Yeah,
that we created for you?
yeah, my name is on it and everything.
Look at the bottom icon, does it say calculator?
No, it says
Go to
Home
that.
Loans,
Okay.
contacts, chat, and account.
Okay. We can show it to you afterwards.
Sorry,
Yeah,
okay.
I wanna make sure.
Well,
it's
I just want to make sure
current.
I'm on the right one.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's from CMG?
Yeah.
Okay,
has your name and mine on it.
that's,
but-
oh, great, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll show you. Yeah, we have to get back to probably the homepage. Speaking of calculators, online calculators, give unrealistic expectations, not our mobile calculator, but online calculators. So a lot of times people will be looking at Zillow or Redfin, the two most popular ones that come up at the top on the search, and they go into these calculators and it does break down certain things. Problem is, it doesn't really have certain information, doesn't know anything about the client, doesn't know the credit score, it doesn't really take into account it's a condo versus a townhome, et cetera. So our calculator on our mobile app, coincidentally, if they say, is this a condo? It will look at that knowing it's a condominium because condominium interest rates are higher than they are for a townhome or a single family residence. And typically it's about a quarter of 1% higher than the interest rate for condos. So for conventional loans, FHA and VA doesn't change their rates for condominiums.
What's the reason?
Layered risk with a condominium, and the condominium people who are running the HOA don't run it properly, then there's risk of them going into bankruptcy. And then you have a defunct HOA of which we cannot resell any units in there. And if Fannie Mae has to come in and foreclose on a condo, they can't sell it because they can't get financing. So their risk to them is higher for that reason.
You said it's 0.25, you said?
Yeah, yes, so a quarter of 1% on your rate. So if rates are at 6 3/4, it'd be 7%. But that's reasonable.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I was gonna talk about 4 components of qualifying.
So this is super basic, but we'll just walk through it, kind of overview of the generalization of what we look at. We look at credit and monthly bills, income, assets, or collateral. And major thing that we talked about is credit. Again, this is a thing why we want to talk to that buyer early. If there's anything we can do to improve credit, even if they don't have bad credit, but they might be able to improve it 10 points, we'll say, hey, if you do this now, you're gonna buy a house in 6 months, keep your balance around this level, and you're gonna have better terms on your mortgage. Typically increments of 20 points on that credit score will change the terms, or can change the terms on the interest rate as well as the rate that we're gonna pay mortgage insurance. So any ways to improve is great. We'll look at revolving debt utilization. I think people get caught up in, well, I don't have a lot of debt. Well, you have 2 credit cards and the maximum on those credit cards is only $500, you have them maxed out, you got good credit. Not bad, but not great, right? You kind of need that utilization percentage to go down. So sometimes we'll say, hey, keep that balance really low. We don't know when the creditors are gonna report to the bureaus. They don't say, hey, every 5th of the month, we're gonna report to the bureaus. So make sure your balance is paid off on the 5th when it reports. So always keeping that balance relatively low for that utilization percentage to be low is important when they're coming up on those months for pre-approval. And we might even say, hey, you're buying in 6 months, you've had this credit card a long time, why don't you now increase your utilization percentage by calling that creditor and say, hey, we can increase my maximum limit. Right, it works both ways, maybe you don't have to pay them, you can just increase that limit.
So debt utilization is just a percentage of your open to buy.
Right, right, what's your maximum limit on that card, what's your balance, that's your utilization. Usually we want to
Across
see it.
any, so if you had 1 card versus 10, so they're gonna take 10 cards, just add it all.
They're gonna look at the utilization for each card, if they don't add them all up,
Okay.
to add an average on, it'd be each. Yep,
The nice thing about that is sometimes we can increase someone's score very easily and a lot just by paying down a balance or increasing the limit of a credit card.
Okay.
One, just sometimes just to qualify them at all, or 2, to get them into a much better loan program. And hopefully with lower rates or maybe a smaller down payment and lower cost of mortgage insurance, as Dale mentioned. So that's why this piece is pretty important for us to review. And somebody who has a 769 credit score is a great credit score, but if we get into 780, they might be able to get an even better loan. So
Right.
we'll even offer that up to people with great credit, if it makes a difference. Sometimes it doesn't because they're putting a big down payment and it offsets having a little bit lower score. So our job is to navigate and balance and juggle all the different opportunities to help them get the very best. And you won't get that at a rocket mortgage, and that's another real added value to our clients.
yeah. Experian Boost, that's a website, I encourage you all to go on right now, you can follow the prompts and your credit score might just be boosted that extra 5 points that you need to get to one of those 20-point limits that could change the terms of the loan. So that's a really simple thing that anyone can do. I've had clients that do that and they say, hey, this didn't change my credit at all, so it's not guaranteed, but most people can get just that teeny little boost on their score. Just Googling Experian Boost, you'll come to that website. You can report your rent and utilities. So sometimes people don't have good credit because they just don't have credit. It's kind of counterintuitive. You have to have debt to have credit. And so, looking at reporting your rent payments or your utilities, these are debts that we don't have to count in qualifying and can help improve credit score. We have a company that does what's called a credit builder card. So I've had people say, hey, I'm buying this $1 million house, I don't have any debt, I've bought tons of houses before, I have great income, great, we say, hey, you might say, hey, here's your pre-approval. We have to still check their credit because sometimes they don't have any score. Again, you have to have debt to have a credit score. For those people who have had inactive credit for a long period of time, this is typically older people who just had everything paid off. They have great credit history, they've never made a late payment in their life, but they literally have no credit. We have a card that reports multiple, instead of just that one time a month, it'll report once a week so that we can make sure they have a score by the time of closing. And I've seen it where they have no score and it goes up to 780. So that's something that we will do as well. Authorized signer, this is like my favorite tool in the toolbox for credit. If you have younger buyers, first time home buyers, we will have them get added to mom or dad's credit card as an authorized signer to get the credit rating and history that comes with that card. Right, so they're young, they don't have credit history, they can get added as an authorized signer. We don't have to count that debt against them. They get the biggest credit improvement by having all that credit history come along to their score, and they never have to touch the card. Don't worry.
I was holding my breath.
The card, it's a big name.
Yeah,
Yes, perfect.
yeah, I love talking about this with people who have, kids that are graduating high school, they're starting college. Hey, maybe you don't pay rent, maybe you buy them a house, have them rent the rooms to their roommates. You can put as little as 3.5% down. Oh, but my kid doesn't have credit. Well, they can in a month. Do this authorized signer, bam, they have a good credit score, and you can invest in their future and, maybe sell that house at the end of the 4 years and pay off some of that college tuition that you went through.
Is that different than cosigner?
Yes,
Because a cosigner, you're basically blind.
you're still liable for the debt.
Right.
So authorized signer, in our world, the difference would be that debt payment, we don't count as your true payment or debt for qualifying.
Right.
Yeah. Also, by the way, that kid doesn't have to have any income,
Hmm.
because they just have mom or dad co-sign with them.
So they co-sign on the loan, not the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was talking like
The mortgage or the
to
credit?
get my daughter set up with a credit card when she was like 19, I co-signed.
Right, you can do that too.
But I.
You're both, yeah, you're both kind of liable, really,
Yeah.
but
And that's also a brand new card versus, I've had this card for 20 years, I have this amazing history.
So the authorized signers, obviously, that's gonna make it.
Yeah, you got it.
Makes sense.
Yep. Opt-out pre-screen, this is another website you can Google, we've talked about this so many times. We send it to everyone as soon as they apply, hey, do this, it'll avoid your spam calls, and it will also, can improve your score a little bit. Is that true?
if they can improve their score.
Yeah,
I don't know the answer. They-
I've always said that line, but I've always been told that, but.
I know it takes away a lot of the spam.
Yeah,
Spam calls, spam email, spam mail, because you do put in your name, your date of birth, your social, and you have to put some pretty important information in there. But it does tap into a lot of the stuff that comes because of that information's out there on the web. So it's helpful. I do it every year. Well, it's 5 or 10 years you do it, so it's worth it.
and then of course we can look at removing past delinquent debt. I would say our favorite bad credit client is one who has medical collections. Oftentimes we can get those removed as if they never existed because of HIPAA laws. I'm not gonna get into the details of that. It's actually something that we usually outsource to a credit repair company. But those repair companies know the scripts to talk to the creditors, and they really can't show the data to show that that medical collection is accurate or exists because of HIPAA laws. That information is private, so oftentimes we can get those totally removed from credit as if they never existed and really restore their credit score.
The new rules are they can't show those medical collections anymore anyway, when we run their credits, so going forward, those are some older debts that they've been on there. Going forward, they're not allowed to report those anymore on credit, because half of them are not right anyway, literally, that's the reason for it. So,
Collectors sell debts to other collectors, so it's always this cycle of like, but I paid them, oh, but now someone else owns the debt, and sometimes it doesn't follow suit, and it can be a mess that we need to help them fix. We talked about rescore, that's another way that we just will help them improve their credit score.
Good question.
Yeah,
With the authorized signer, when should you do that? Like, how long does it take for it to boost your credit score?
it would have your credit score update the next time that creditor reports to the bureaus.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, We don't know what day they're gonna report, but we know they report every 30 days, so at least 30 days could be much sooner if you add in an authorized signer. And 2 days later, they report to the bureaus.
Yeah,
I
so-
don't think I've had to have that conversation. Easy, I have really good credit, I just have only had it for 4 years, so.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. But that kind of did me when I was buying a car, because I haven't had it for long.
Yeah,
And you can be an authorized signer and they can, now you can sell the car.
no, like my little brother, I have him as an authorized signer on with my credit cards. I would never. And, you know, he's like, someone who wants to live under a rock, I'm like, it doesn't coexist. But he is now and thanked me that like, oh, I have a pretty good credit score. It's like, yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
But to answer your question, I tell people 60 days, just to make sure that, because if you get on the card, the 59th day, on the day, 29 days before they report, and then you have to wait another month for it to show up, that's almost 60 days, I just say to be safe, 60 days.
Okay.
Any more questions about credit? That's great.
Credit is crucial,
Yeah, that's, I mean,
it's like, it's everything.
yes.
Well, they have a job too, but.
I'm interested, like, if you have people that come from out of the country, because it's not as popular to have credit cards.
Well, they have no US debt, so they don't have a credit score.
So what do you do?
We do that credit builder card or the authorized signer, or, you know, we tell them, go get a credit card, you gotta go. Build that credit score, but
I would say,
Maybe you're-
depending on the loan type, we can do an international credit, if they have credit in another country.
Yeah.
I'm doing, I just did one for a guy in Canada, so he has Canadian credit, so we got that. And we were able to use that as the actual credit report instead of the US one.
Did you guys say how long it will take credit to show up on a report? 6 months?
6 months of using it. Yeah, for traditional credit, not an authorized user or anything like that. If you apply for a card today, it'll take 6 months of having the card being reported to the bureau
Gotcha,
to actually show up and provide a credit score.
gotcha.
So if you pay early, like not every 6 months, would that be sooner? Is it every 6 times that you report, or could it be the 6 months?
6 months, yeah. And the goal for anybody who has reestablished or establishing credit is to have them ideally get 3 new accounts that start with 1. One will get you a second one, the second one will get you a third one down the line. But at least 6 months, and we tell them, please use it every month and pay it off every month. And don't come close to the maximum limit of what account this will be. We get a Walmart, so we get a Target, and then we get a gas card, and then they get a regular credit card, they get one of the debt cards or whatever, you can get a secure credit card to a bank. Where you give them your money in a savings account, they use that as collateral. And they give you a real credit card that will get reported to bureaus, but if that client doesn't make their payments, they'll take it out of the savings account to make the payment. That's why it's secured by a savings account, but it's a regular credit card. We go along that.
and we can do no credit score, traditional loans.
Correct.
Too. So for that. The foreign thing is like a lot.
I'm
That's
still
exactly-
interested, but because most of my friends don't have credit cards in Europe, like it's foreign concept to them. They're like, why would you get a credit card?
Yeah,
They don't use a debit card, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
like,
credit
because you
cards
need a
are
credit
protected.
card to build credit.
Right,
They're like,
yeah.
why would you need that?
But if you have a debit card
Welcome to the US.
and you get a fraud problem, you can't get that money back.
Yes.
It goes direct to your account. The credit card gives you fraud protection. I'd say that's the biggest reason to have a credit
And
card, not to use the
Yeah,
credit.
points.
Yes. Yes, and points. I mean, that's always good, but
I have a credit card,
Yeah,
now I
I
know
know.
that I directly pay my credit card.
Yeah.
There's
Some
some
kids
that
like
like
that.
that.
Why would you?
Yeah.
that's my biggest selling point to my kids. Someone takes your. Writes it and uses it inappropriately in the bank, yeah, they can clean out your account, yeah, they can. You just call your credit company and say, hey,
Very important. Yeah.
knew that was me.
yeah, it wasn't me, and they just sweep it and you can't do it. Yeah, probably they look at those trends.
So for income, we look at their income history. We usually want to see a job history of at least 2 years. Schooling can count towards that if they were in university and then entered the job field. For self-employed people, we do a lot of self-employed clients that is, something where we typically need tax returns for 1 or 2 years. Or we can do alternative financing and just look at the deposits in their bank statements. There's a lot of ways that we can help self-employed people. A lot of people that I've talked with, they have this preconceived notion that because they're self-employed, they're never gonna be able to buy a house. Please tell them they're wrong and they should talk to us. There are so many ways that have changed in the mortgage industry that we can find creative ways to look at their income to help them qualify. And sometimes too, if they've been in their line of business for 5 years or more, we can just use one tax return average. And so, they might just file a little differently for that 1 year, like the IRS bullet, if you will, and, take less expenses to be able to buy a home. I hope I'm not being too.
It's called creativity.
We're not telling them, hey, maybe it looks like you need more money, but maybe you take less deductions. Hourly versus salary, so any salary employed income or guaranteed full-time income, we can qualify them before they've even started at that job. So someone who's in between jobs, or they know they're gonna get a new job, as soon as they have that offer letter that shows their guaranteed pay, their start date, that they've cleared any, background or drug tests, we can qualify them before they even start at the job. However, they have fluctuating income, hourly, part-time, commission, that kind of, we need at least a year history, oftentimes 2, and we're gonna average that over time. And it can be at different jobs, they don't need to be at that one job for that whole time, but that's where you need a little bit more history.
So we see that with people coming out of college, they have a job lined up, they're gonna graduate and start their new job in 60 days. They have to start within 2 months of closing of the loan transaction, so they don't even have to be on the job. But then we have to follow, get pay stubs after they close, that's part of our kind of follow-up work. I've been doing, I had some with people who have left the armed forces, who are now done with their time served and now they're getting a civilian job. We can use that, what that future job will be, because we know when they're getting out of the service. So we don't have to use that income quality. So a lot of people don't know any of that, they just like, I can't do anything until I start my new job, I haven't been on the job for 2 years, because I just got out of college. If you're college, you're a chiropractor, and you got into a chiropractic firm, that's where you're working, you're getting paid a salary and not hourly rate, we can use that for all right away.
Yeah, we really just wanna empower you to, maybe not know all the details, but say, I think you're wrong, I think you can, it's worth having this conversation. Again, just another reason to connect them with the lender, so they can not have those preconceived notions that may be wrong and hindering them from buying a house. Overtime and bonus income, that also is fluctuating, same thing, any fluctuating income, we need at least 1, oftentimes 2 years history. If they have a second job, they have to have their primary and second job for at least 2 years, working simultaneously. They can have a different second job that they trade between, as long as there's no big gaps between that second job, we can use that income for qualifying. But those people who are like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna go drive Uber for a few months and I'll boost up my income to qualify. You gotta do that for a little bit.
What about seasonal people?
Seasonal people, we have to have 2 full years of seasons, but you
The
can,
same employers?
no,
Not just seasonal,
Oh, okay.
just has to be consistent for 2 years of seasonal like work.
yeah. So ski instructors, we see that a lot of times they do that extra income in the winter. We got 2 winter seasons, we can use that.
Coaching,
Yeah.
I should perk up for a second.
Ooh, did you add this? Grossing up income, what type of win?
Okay.
I'll let you nerd out on this.
Okay, so what does grossing up income mean? I'll share it quickly. So let's say I'm a veteran and I receive VA disability income. And the income I receive from the VA is not taxable. And let's say I get $1,000 a month in non-taxable income. That dollar of $1,000, that dollar amount, is as if I was actually earning $1,250. Because if I was earning gross income and I got taxed down to $1,000, which is what I ended up with, we're allowed to increase that income to that level to call it income to qualify. So that's grossing up, that's increasing the income as if it was net income versus prior to taxable income. And there's a couple different ways we can do that in different things.
Child support's a big one.
That, social security,
Yeah.
it's not, portion of social security is non-taxable, the disability is very, very commonly used. So a lot of people don't know that we can do that, and so they're like, wait a minute, you're telling me my income is this, and it's really this, and yeah, but we can utilize this acceptable source of how we can create income, a little bit higher income qualify. So,
Yeah. And that's another thing that sometimes out-of-state lenders don't understand, because Colorado does have different state laws when it comes to child support. We don't tax it. Other states, I think, do. And so they might not even know you can do that. It's gonna hinder that qualifying. So another reason to just know that there are so many reasons you probably could even getting by law. We don't even think of. So then, down payment sources. A couple things I wanted to point out here, a lot of these you already know, but we talked to a lot of people about, hey, if you don't have money, maybe in savings, do you have a 401k, do you have retirement funds? A lot of people don't know that they can borrow, not withdraw, but borrow against their retirement account to use towards the purchase of a primary residence without penalty. So we might say, hey, leverage that asset now to grow this bigger asset, and it's gonna help you own your own home. And that's something that sometimes they're just short, $5,000-$10,000 to get the house that they want. They do this little 401k loan, and what's nice is we don't have to count that 401k loan payment against them. It's their own money they're borrowing, they can do with it what they want.
What's the payback term on that typically?
So I can only just say, an account that I have, it's not retirement, but I talked with my, financial advisor, he's like, so you pay back at a rate of, I think, 8.5% interest, but 7.5% of that interest actually goes back into the account. So you're not really having a huge penalty for borrowing that money. You're spending a lot more interest on the actual, mortgage loan.
And I think you can pick your term.
Yeah.
You can pick your term. They all have different rules. We don't ever say it's guaranteed or what you can do, but look into your 401k provider.
I've seen like 5 to 20 years. Typically, I've seen mostly 10 is the most common one I've had. But I even ask people like, what other terms I'm always interested in. So it's been around that amount. So.
It's not so bad when you pay your interest to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not liquidating, so you still have your investments in there, you still have moving on. It's an amazing form of borrowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, they gotta balance that payment with the new house payment, so it's just, hey, we're not gonna count that debt against you, but make sure you're comfortable. We don't want to force someone to get a house they're not comfortable with. I don't know how much I want to talk about. I think a lot of this is already well known. We've talked about down payment assistance. We'll always look and see if that's a better option for the client. What I oftentimes say about down payment assistance is free money isn't free. Oftentimes you gotta pay it back. Those terms are set in stone. They don't let you buy down the interest rate, which we are so often doing with sellers right now that a lot of times if we can avoid down payment assistance, we're going to. Anything else you want to say about down payment?
No, I think just the most important thing is that people just don't know what they don't know, as far as accessing funds to buy a house. The two things I hear a lot of, here's a lot of, one is, I don't have any money, or I have $3,000, I can't buy anything, or two, I need to wait till I have $20,000 before I can even consider looking to buy a house. And then, in fact, we actually like those comments, when he's like, oh my God, we're gonna make your day today. Here's what you actually can do with $20,000. I'll let you go buy, a people, if they're a veteran, they buy a lot, but if they're putting 3% down, they could buy a pretty decent sized home at $20,000, they can only afford the payment. So cash availability is always one that people think they just need more. And they just don't know all the different twists and turns our market allows for. To have small down payment and in the current environment of seller concessions, we get closer costs into the buy down money to help get them into a place that is now even more affordable than they thought. So the asset conversation is probably most time we spend on to make sure we're addressing all the different options. A lot of people have cryptocurrency, and they're like, I'm gonna get rid of that, I'm like, well, you probably did good now, because it's almost doubled again, it's like, maybe 1,000 Bitcoins, and you own it, we're happy. But I've had clients,
I know exactly what that is.
yeah, so I've had clients who have liquidated some in order to kind of live it down, and you should think about, yeah, I have it. But what, do you wanna leverage that into a property? Because, hopefully, you might get better return in the long run, so.
As for private gifts, is there any, negative consequence with that? So let's say
From family.
yeah, like just when the lender's doing the underwriting, I think, well, that was private gift, so we, like.
I have seen it where if it's in their account, savings account versus a gift, there is a little differential in underwriting. I've had a file that was just so tight qualifying, if it was in their savings account, we could qualify, but as a gift, it couldn't. That's such a unique scenario. I mean, you can avoid that by giving them the money, 2 months before they buy a house, and then we don't have to track the source of the funds.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
What's the maximum gifts that you can receive?
there's no max. I just had a lady with a very nice grandma who gave her 800,000. So.
There's no way from a mortgage standpoint, the limits. Then you fall into like, what kind of income tax concerns are there for the donor?
Right,
Yeah, not the recipient, but
I
the
think
person
it's
getting money doesn't pay taxes.
so yeah, we see a lot of
Getting
it.
a tax.
But, I was just gonna say, we see a lot of pushback because they want the gift funds to be on their taxes. But I think, I'm not even quite sure what's happening right now with ours, it's not gonna show if they just utilize gift funds as a taxable income. Is that correct?
Well, it wouldn't be income, so if it's truly a
Taxes,
gift,
yeah.
yeah, so let's say. You and I are related, I've given you a gift of
Yeah.
$500,000 to buy a house. If I file that gift in on my tax return, then I'm gonna be the one who's gonna get taxed. However, there are two different kind of gift taxing guidelines that people follow.
Mm-hmm.
And most common one is you get $15,000 or $16,000 a year per person, per family member. That is non-taxable, you don't have to file anything. But there's also a lifetime gift tax of $12.4 million per person. So if you're a married couple, it could be $24 million, which is like $28 million. A lot of people don't know about that one because a lot of us aren't in that category. I'm concerned about knowing that.
Speak for
That-
yourself.
That happened when Trump got into office first time. He changed that. It was $1 million and bumped it up to $24 million.
Wow.
So you can tuck in there, cumulatively over your lifetime, you can give $12.4 million as an individual and have zero taxable event to me, the donor. You just have to file it properly that way versus the annual tax. And that's what we tell people, but please go talk to your accountant or CPA. Because you can file it that way.
Okay.
What we typically tell them is, nobody files anything, it's family, they don't do anything with it, it's just, I give my grandkid this much money, or I give my spouse, or whatever.
Yeah, and we do say that we do not report that to the
We do
IRS,
not.
so,
If they
Well,
got
you will.
audited,
right,
or they pulled a loan file to see a gift letter. I've had 37 years of doing this, I've never been told that that's happened, that doesn't, mean it
Yeah.
hasn't happened, it's rare. But I won't advise them to say it never happened or anything like that, for sure.
that's a good question, though, and I agree, it comes out a lot, and people don't know about that lifetime tax, which means
Yeah.
they're probably never gonna pay taxes.
Gotcha,
Yeah,
thank you.
It's a good one to know.
That does play into like inheritance and stuff though, right? Like, if, let's say somebody leaves 10 million, and then they've done 14, 15 grand of gifts while they were alive, then that tax is not over inheritance.
Well, inheritance is,
Rest-
yeah, so
or
from
is
a
that-
loan standpoint, inheritance fund is not a gift. It's just inheritance.
Right.
How they set their will up and how that gets dispersed, that again is completely out of our need to know.
Mhm.
I don't know how they would get taxed on it, and most people plan, if they know that there's that kind of money to be dispersed at some point, they probably figured out a way to make it non-taxable. Yeah, with a will and with a trust and the trust.
So just to wrap up our presentation here, the client, after their conversation, will walk away with understanding of what financing options are available to them. It's our tool to show them, hey, here's all the paths, here's how it plays out for you. You choose what you think is best, you know, offer advice when permitted. Realistic expectations and a roadmap to homeownership. So we might say, hey, if that's your goal, if you have to have that, you know, dollar priced home, you gotta do X, Y, and Z, and then they have a tangible roadmap so that they can follow it and really, I think it's hard to save money oftentimes unless you have that goal in mind and know exactly what you need to save and what you're saving for. And then, hopefully a pre-approval letter so they can start shopping.
Yes,
Thanks, guys.
yeah.
Thank
We
you.
call it the golden ticket.
Yes.
So I want that thing, everyone tells me I need this thing, like, oh, you talking about the golden ticket thing? I'm like, what golden ticket thing? Pretty cool.
That's good. What are the lending rates today? Have you changed their offer rates?
They have changed. They got way more flexible. We can go up to 49.9% debt income ratio on a Fannie Mae loan. 55 or 57% on an FHA loan, and 60% on a VA loan.
What about?
It's rare that we go that high on those two. Every now and
And what about conventional?
then, 49.9.
Oh, that's 40.
Yeah, jumbo loans are limited to 43%. Some 45, but I mean, everything is not always there, there's always caveats. So,
Yeah, it's pretty
It's
significant.
crazy if you're going to gross income, it's like, well, it's anything taxes. Compared to going to buy groceries, but
Mhm.
What's the front end though?
your friends, ranges from 33 to 42, what did you
Yeah.
say, 45?
well, sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, again, it's
That one's
client
a little-
specific,
It's not very-
it's nice, we can have a lot of different options for some people.
Right.
We don't want, the goal for us, by the way, is not to just give a loan, it's to make sure you can get a loan they can afford. So we have to look at all the different parts of their file, like, let's say they're the high debt to income ratio for your question, that they have all this other income we just can't use to qualify,
Right.
or we don't want to use it, we don't need it to qualify. So those are the reasons that we bring these ratios. Good reason.
Wife has bad credit, we're not gonna put her on the loan, but she's got.
Does anybody online have a question?
Super informative, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, we just have to serve this little.
Yeah.
Must get an update or something.
Oh,
Is their app working?
Well, I don't have it co-branded.
Let's see. You have this program.
Is this, and here's, is
Yeah,
that the
that's
right
right.
one?
That's strange.
So I shared it with myself to see what they would get. and this
Okay,
is stuff
there you
that's done.
So I went to account.
Right. Oh, we have to go to account.
Yeah, no. For some, if it's a consumer, they get, it's all
That's
shown
right.
down
Oh,
here,
right.
because they're not doing what you want to be doing together,
Okay,
and then there's something for doing purchase. Conventional loan. Going slide this or actually tap it in.
yeah, perfect. That gave me some good ideas. Then we have a plan for her daughter in Boulder, so
Okay.
do you have any tricks or treats for that?
Yeah. Yeah, like a case hundred.
Yeah.
Whether it's school.
Up to 650, I think. My husband, my son's rent next year.
Yeah.
$2,000 a month.
For a room. Like one room.
3 bedrooms, 2,000 each.
Unbelievable.
Covers co-branded. So how do I do, I just
We
did
need
it
to-
then, and then I added it.
Let us stay here.
Okay.
Well, how do you believe that one?
Okay.
It'll get confused with the system.
Okay.
And I'll read it. create it, we'll send it to you, and you will add your own
Which one?
password.
Okay.
Can take you behind the curtains.
A little better, because I'm like, dive into that stuff.
You let them in behind the curtains.
Yes, I say, you open the computer.
Are you done with this?
Yeah. Me too.